Everybody. This is, believe it or not, season 2 of the Artificial Intelligence and Cybersurgery Podcast, episode 1. I'm going to present my guest in a moment, but we're the podcast for the journal Artificial Intelligence Surgery, the first journal dedicated exclusively to artificial intelligence and surgery. And I'm so happy to invite our guest. Is it professor? Is it chief? Is it what? Gudrun Aspelund, who I know from my days of general surgery residency at Yale. I am currently broadcasting. I don't even know what this is called. I guess I'm podcasting from Tbilisi in the Republic of Georgia, where I'm going to start at the American Hospital Tbilisi in approximately 1 week. And Gudrun, please take it away. Where are you right now? And remind the viewers, or not remind them, tell them, please, a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into a little bit how we know each other, okay?
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here and good to see you again. Well,
Nice.
I'm currently actually in Copenhagen, in Denmark.
Nice.
I'm at a course in bioinformatics and genomics,
Oh,
which is
fantastic.
organized by the Statens Serum Institute, which is the Danish, basically, public health research and public health office, as
Interesting.
well as the European Center for Disease Control. So yeah, it's like a 10-day course, and it's been very interesting.
Oh, well, that brings me something we're definitely gonna have to talk about. Um, but anyway, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna forget.
no,
So
no.
so please, tell everybody what this lovely woman from Iceland, how she would know me, little
Yeah,
old me. How,
sure. So this is just incidental that I'm here, but I work in Iceland. I'm from Iceland, and currently my position there is well, the title is Chief Epidemiologist for Iceland,
yes.
and that is at a public agency, Center for Health Security and Communicable Disease Control, which is basically Iceland's CDC equivalent. Although we are, of course, much smaller in scale, being a small nation.
Well, we're of course going to get to that, and we're going to get to
Yes.
when you started that. But we met originally during general surgery
So
residency at Yale.
yeah, so I know you from Yale, of course, and we graduated together in general surgery.
We were chief
And
res. We were in chief residence together. Of course.
residency, which was we had a great team. And I did general surgery there, coming from Iceland, and subsequently went to Toronto to do a fellowship in pediatric surgery. And then
Yes.
we met again in New York when I
Yes.
was a surgeon attending at Columbia, and
Yes.
you were at Cornell, but Columbia and Cornell were
Yeah.
connected. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was doing a minimally invasive surgery fellowship, which was 6 months at Columbia, 6 months at Cornell, and then I went away to Paris. Actually, I went to the Congo, um, with Doctors Without Borders, and then I went to Paris for a year, minimally invasive HPB surgery, and then I started as an attending at Columbia, and
yeah.
that's where we continued to know each other. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, did you ever do anything at Bronx Lebanon Hospital?
So that's a good story because when I came to Columbia, we were doing all these satellites. We were covering a lot of different hospitals, and we were 9 pediatric surgeons, so a fairly large team, at least at that time.
Yeah.
And so had people going to different places. And so when I came there, there were certain requirements I had to meet, and just a side story was to do ECMO on kids. But I had trained in Toronto, and in Toronto, the cardiac surgeons do the ECMO. But at Columbia, there was a long tradition for the general pediatric surgeons to do all the ECMO.
Oh
You know,
my.
both like the procedures and to run the machines.
Fun,
When the babies
fun,
and
fun,
kids were on
fun.
it.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, I'll do that. But then there were these other hospitals I had to go to, and so Bronx, Lebanon was one of them, and I refused. So and that's because my husband and I were like, no, that is not safe. The area was a little bit at the time not so great, and there
So
had
so I should warn you. I was born in that hospital, and my
yeah,
my
who
father
else?
did his residency there and worked there. But of course, it's not a safe area um, for a single woman. Of course, for a
Yeah.
woman by herself. Of course, you're right.
And this was at the time I was just arriving there, and I didn't know too much, But anyway, my partners went there, but I never went there. So I covered other hospitals, but
Yeah.
they were all fine. I think this was a little bit naive, but anyway, I didn't have to go.
No, no. Of course, you probably never saw this movie, but there's a movie called Fort Apache, the Bronx, with Paul Newman that talks about that part of the South Bronx.
Yeah,
So it's a good movie if you ever want to if you're ever looking for a good movie.
there you go. Yeah.
So then I fast forward a couple of years, I started this journal, and I reached out to you, and I was
Hmm.
surprised to find out that you were back in Iceland. And actually, were you in London at the time?
Yeah. So I had been 10 years at Columbia, which was a great time and a great career. But we moved from the U.S., and this was really because of my husband's career. And he had been working for a long time in a bank in New York, and he took over an international office in London.
Right,
And we just decided to go for it. We thought it was, exciting. We'd been in the U.S. 20 years, and we tried to live in Europe, and we did. We had a fantastic time in London, and that's when when we started connecting again for the journal.
right. And now we get to the good part. I think you started working for the government in Iceland. Was this right before COVID? Did you
Yeah,
start and COVID hit? Like how much afterwards?
right now, yeah, exactly. It was just a few months. I started in October 2019, so we were still in London,
Yeah,
and I started working remotely, which at the time was a bit unusual actually for them.
right,
Um, but so that was the arrangement, and I worked from home in London, and then I went to the office in Iceland like once a month for a week.
right,
So it was, worked really well, and I had a particular project I was hired and working on, and yeah, then in February things changed completely, and of course COVID came a little bit earlier. January they started. February we got the first case in Iceland, end of February,
right.
and then everybody in the office was working on this. So
Yeah,
we ended up moving back to Iceland mid-March,
right,
2020.
right. And was that not scheduled? Was it
It was not scheduled at that time. It was we were going
it
to
was
move back.
coming. It was
Yeah,
coming.
we were going to move back. I had already taken this position. My husband actually had accepted a job in Iceland. We were going to move back in the fall of 2020, but we moved it up to March when things were getting a little dicey in London.
Right, right. And then that must have been quite quite a shock to go from pediatric surgery to dealing with, the largest pandemic in our lifetime, right? I mean, safe to
Yeah,
say.
you could say that. Yeah, yeah. In many ways, it was a steep learning curve. And it was a challenge, yeah, to just start working in an office and for the government, after having
Yeah.
working as a clinician for so many years and a surgeon also. But this was really interesting though, and I have to say, and there was just so much to learn, and it was very busy,
Well,
and for everybody, this was nobody had gone through anything like this.
we just had a podcast where we were talking about how, as a surgeon, as you get older, it's a little bit frustrating to only be able to impact one person at a time, one patient at a time. And I would love to be able to do something like you do, where you can impact entire populations at a time. I mean, that must be beyond rewarding.
Yeah, it's on a different scale, and you're still using your knowledge and your experience as a doctor, but of course it's public health, so you are affecting, yes, a whole nation and many individuals, but it's slowly, and you have to sometimes remind yourself what you're doing, and because it's not as palpable, it's not this instant gratification you get as a
Yeah,
surgeon. So sometimes I miss that. uh, so you have to remind yourself, but it's you still you have a satisfaction in a different way.
How did AI at all help you? I know you wrote an editorial for us a little bit. How has kind of AI become more of a part of your life? Is it more with apps? Is it more, do you have any computer scientists that work with you now? Are statistics more complicated, or how is that kind of affecting how things are done now?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more important. I mean, I think it's going to accelerate pretty quickly. Well, we used an app in COVID, but first it was like GPS. It was basically to remind people where they had been location-wise if somebody got infected, so they could assist with tracing backwards, their contacts. And then later on, it became a Bluetooth technique to kind of, ping your contacts if you were diagnosed. But it was, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you remember this beautiful actress from, I believe, like the 1940s called Hedy Lamarr. You're a woman. You are a cis woman, because that's the way so you probably wouldn't remember Hedy Lamarr, but I remember Hedy Lamarr, and she was absolutely gorgeous. And she holds the patent that led to Bluetooth technology, which is mind-boggling. I mean, if you could imagine, the equivalent of Marlene Dietrich, like imagine if I told you she has one of the patents that led to Bluetooth technology, you'd be like, what?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a good story behind that.
Yeah. So what are you now? You mentioned you're at a conference about genomics. Are you going to try to incorporate that into the management of cancer patients, or what do you think?
So for me in particular, this is about sequencing of mainly viruses, but also bacteria. And for bacteria, it also comes into antibiotic resistance.
Okay.
Where genetic sequencing can be very helpful to, when you, for example, for
what variant is on the loose.
And for us, we actually used it in COVID for contact tracing. Huh. Not in general, but there were certain instances where you could trace like an outbreak, so you can see, because you can follow how the virus changes. So it's not necessarily a totally different variant, a different name and so on, but you can see how it changes in genetic sequences, and for example, how long that kind of takes. So say there's 1 to 2 changes between persons. You can see who maybe got infected from somebody here and there with using combination of genetics and epidemiology. So you have the epidemiology information, you have the genetic information, and there you can, this can assist in outbreak investigations. So this is going to be more important, I think. And the same goes for antibiotic resistance. You can see a certain pattern of resistance in certain bacteria, and you can then maybe trace where they come from. Did they come from a certain food source or contaminated water? If you have a hospital-related infection, what is the origin? So this is kind of what we're working with. So this conference where I'm at, it brings together, or this course brings together bioinformatics people, epidemiologists, and microbiologists. So to train us to work together as a team and this purpose. Yeah.
Now, where is your genomic testing? Is it done? Is it done in Iceland, or do you ship it out somewhere?
No, we do a lot of it in Iceland, but we do also collaborate with the Danish at the Statens Serum Institute. They have been very helpful. During COVID, there was a private company in Iceland called Decode Genetics that actually performed all the sequencing for most of the time, really until the hospital was ready, because they didn't have the machinery, didn't have the knowledge at the time to do this, but then they acquired it and took over. So now it's done at the what's called the National Reference Laboratory at the hospital.
Now I'm guessing a virus's DNA must be much shorter than human DNA, but nonetheless, about how long would it take for you to get a result on a viral DNA? How many days would it take? Would it take days, weeks, or hours? Do you have any idea?
No, it's usually days. Yeah, not
Wow.
many days. For COVID, it could be, a few days, couple of days even. Yeah.
Right. No,
So it
it's
doesn't take
interesting
long. Some of these are RNA, DNA. Yeah.
because one of the things I'm looking at now is, you know, at places like Memorial Sloan Kettering, they look at about 505 genes per tumor when they look at a tumor. But the human
Mm.
genome has, upwards of 25,000 per chromosome, many more genes, of course. Um, and, believe it or not, to do a total genome now, you can send it off to companies and it only costs about $1,000 per person. So I'm very interested in combining genomics, like full or total genomics or total full genome with radiomics. Radiomics, instead of
Mm.
looking at a single image, is actually able to look at kind of all the images of a CT scan and get information that the human eye can't even understand. Like it'll be able to, once it's trained to say like, all right, this pancreatic cyst is going to turn to a cancer in 8 months, or this hepatocellular cancer is going to recur in 2 years or in less than 2 years. It can do this. We don't know why it comes with the answer because I mean the level of interpretation is just too massive for the human brain, the black box phenomena. But combining genomics with radiomics for surgeons would be very interesting, obviously. Now you have a tumor, okay, it's resectable,
Mm.
fine. But imagine if the genomics and the radiomics tells you, okay, it's resectable, but you shouldn't because it's going to metastasize very quickly or what have you. And now, there's another term which pathomics, which is all the pathology slides. You can look at all of those. You can annotate where the tumor is, and again, you can create algorithms that the computer can understand that we have, no way of understanding. So I'm starting a new project called the Ergos Project: Artificial Intelligence, Radiomics, Genomics, Oncopathology, and Surgiomics, which is kind of a new concept in artificial intelligence, is looking at video. One aspect of surgeomics is looking at video and seeing if different wavelengths, different, narrowband imaging or what have you, if we can analyze the video data and understand things that maybe we're missing, once the computer is trained. So it's so fun to combine all of these things and figure out ways to help our patients on a grander scale. So I love that you're doing it with viruses. I mean, who would have thought the Gudrun Aspelund, talented pediatric surgeon, would now be rubbing elbows with viral genomic experts around the world, and
Uh,
that's exactly what you're doing.
yeah, no, but it's good for us to sometimes change and learn new things. But I think artificial intelligence is going to come into this more. I
Yeah,
mean, because what we're doing is really like, in simple terms, like pattern recognition, right? I mean, we could use some help here, So we're
yeah,
putting together a lot of pieces to make a puzzle.
yeah,
And so we have maybe some genetic differences, and then we're looking for, where's the change? Does it matter? So we have to look at, maybe where was the testing done? What's the population behind it? Timing. It's a
yeah.
lot of different variables that come into, and so this is something that is, of course, we're going to use computers here,
It's
and
it's a
yeah, and so they're also doing a lot of modeling. So you use this data to predict what's going to happen. And that's there's a lot of stuff going on in this.
So did your how I'm imagining you still have your position, so I'm imagining Iceland did pretty well during COVID, from what I can understand.
Yeah, so I took over just last fall in my current position. So my boss retired. You know,
Wow.
he was the one who really spearheaded the response in Iceland. And then when there was came a little bit of a calm, he decided to step down. And but
And now
because
it's you.
he
So
was
so when Arnar, our co-chief resident, called you the Fauci of Iceland, he wasn't so far off now, was he?
well, he wasn't far off in the sense that the positions might be equivalent, but of course we are much smaller than the U.S. So I would say the pressure is less.
Well, yes, but many very advanced in many ways. I love the politics in Iceland. I believe, if I'm correct, the LGBTQ plus in Iceland is fantastic. The role of women in leadership roles is fantastic. I just saw something where people can leave babies outside to sleep and go into a store and not have their baby disappear. Um, Amazing.
Sure.
And I believe my favorite thing, which I recently saw, is that Iceland, I think, stopped whaling. Did I read that
Yeah,
correct?
just now, yes.
So
So
so that's fantastic news. That's you're
yeah, I
really
think
living
most
in
people
a
support
paradise.
that. We don't feel that is a necessary industry nowadays, and
Yeah.
but it's kind of a leftover from before. Of course, historically, it goes way back,
Yeah, yeah,
and
no, I know.
Scandinavia and Iceland are very advanced and equal rights, like you said, for many groups, and you can always do better. But I think we've come a long way, and people could look to Scandinavia and Iceland
Oh,
in these
absolutely.
matters. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, no, absolutely. The world has a lot to learn from Iceland, which I love. So, are you looking now, or would you recommend for young doctors to maybe get some expertise in artificial intelligence, to maybe study computer science, but before maybe majoring in that, or maybe getting a master's in AI? Like, what are the type of things you would look for if someone wanted to work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I mean, we do have data people, and those things are going to be more important to be able to both, you know, analyze data and do statistics and then present them, so graphics, those kind of platforms. Um, and these are the things that change all the time, and you have to be, you have to make understandable. And then it's also modeling is something that we are, uh, like in my office, we don't have people to do, so we're starting to work with the university on kind of both on analysis and hopefully like predictions and modeling if and when we need that, the time will of course come when the next pandemic hits us.
Yeah.
And that is something that can be very helpful to prepare, to know what to expect. Although maybe it won't be come true, which is then it's just good.
Yeah, yeah.
But you always want to be try to know what to expect. And I think that's where mathematics, statistics, and computers are playing a big part. So it's a key element of what we do, and that's going to be more important, I think.
Wow. Excellent. So, Gudrun, thank you so much. I think it's fantastic to hear what you're doing. I'm beyond excited for you. I'm gonna have to invite myself to Iceland one of these days and come visit you. I know you showed a picture of where you work. That picture
Mm-hmm.
with remind me is there a U.S. president, and is it Gorbachev there, or am I
No,
incorrect?
no, well, we have an office tower, but across the street is this house called Havdi,
Yeah.
by the ocean there. And this is where the leadership meeting between Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev was in 1986, where
Yes.
they were kind of, almost decided on ending, tearing down the wall and
Right.
end of the Cold War. So it was
I'm
historical.
I mean, you're probably aware of what's going on in Russia right now. I, I
Oh,
would I would normally say the Ukraine, but now I'm saying what's going on in Russia. And I must tell you, being this close
yeah.
is eye-opening to say the least. So hopefully, hopefully things work out as well as they did back then. We
Yeah, I
shall
hope
see.
so. And you're welcome to come for a visit. We'd be happy
Yeah.
to show you around. Yeah.
Well, you didn't know this, but I was secretly boycotting Iceland because of the whaling issue. So now
Ah,
I'm definitely going to come visit Iceland. I've always wanted to.
very good.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Gudrun. Have a
same.
wonderful summer. And
Thank you.
I should mention Gudrun is one of our editorial board members of the journal Artificial Intelligence Surgery. The website is AIS journal, JOURNAL.net. It's open access, so you can look at all of the articles for free. You can check out Dr. Aspelund's. Is it professor? Is it chief? What is your title now?
No, I'm just a doctor, and
Just
the
doctor.
title is chief epidemiologist. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to call you Chief Aspelund's article
Okay.
about the response of Iceland to COVID. It's a great read. I recommend you go to it, and we'll be in touch, Gudrun. It's wonderful to see you.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.